On a Melbourne front, Clayton Oliver returned to training today. We wait to see if he returns to the team on the weekend, but that is what's broadly expected. There's a conversation which is reignited around what his future looks like. So for teammate and for player alike, they were drawn in today.
Class was back in today and, look back to his old self. So I think, just having a bit of time to collect himself, did good for him.
Do you expect him to be there DC?
I expect him to, yeah. Well, he's a terrific teammate and, I don't expect him not to work otherwise.
Look at play this week. Not playing this week.
Who knows, mate?
So the doorstop on the way into training left Melbourne unimpressed, and their president, Brad Green, took to Twitter tonight. He said, the treatment and talk around Clayton is an absolute disgrace. The football journalists have no integrity, grow up and leave the kid alone. They wonder why they have personal struggles and have to have a week off.
What's your read on not only the doorstop, but I mean he was the subject of two big articles in the two major papers here in town. Is there any? I don't think there is, but is there any responsibility for journalists or media to go, hang on, let me back away from this. I'm not going to write about it. I don't want to touch it at the moment. He's had a week off from the game. Where do you sit on that?
It's interesting. In the period that privacy was asked for, it was respected and certainly away from the club. And then there is the question in the newsroom, do you need that shot? Do you need that doorstop of him walking in, or is it enough to get the shots of him out of training?
Would there have been... I don't know, I haven't worked in a newsroom, you have. Would there have been any tacit understanding between the networks to say, listen, let's leave him walk in and, as you say, let's get our vision from him training?
I don't think so. It's an open question whether there should have been. I've been the doorstopper in my early days and I hated it, but you had to do it under direction at various stages. It's become much more commonplace and our media is more aggressive now than it has been at any time.
I've seen much more invasive doorstops.
Yes,
than that,
it was just a sort of gentle...
End.
Yeah.
Get the vision.
The two, I'm not a believer in coincidence. And when you get two big reads around one figure on the same day in opposing newspapers, if I was in any way involved, I would be super suspicious about how everyone arrived at that big read at the same time.
Okay, so expand on that. I hadn't gone down this path myself. What are you getting at in that?
I think an idea would have been planted.
By?
Well, I imagine in this instance, it's someone associated with the Oliver side of things around what the future looks like. And then it's up to you whether the list of grievances that were listed around the way he's been played and the time and the like, it's up to you whether you think that carries any weight or not. The long-term issue around resentment that he wasn't traded and would look to explore to do again, that seemed to legitimately re-enter the conversation in May, which is a huge curiosity given that it can't be entertained until September. What do you think?
A couple of things. I respect the call they made last week. It seemed to me to speak to a bit of a maturity between both club and player, that they've come together more meaningfully than they have in the past. And that's the basis on how they should deal with this. My position's always been keep your superstars, and I'm overly protective of Clayton probably, but I do acknowledge that this is now at a really delicate stage, and what they need to do is to continue in this vein of being open, honest and transparent, totally. Cards on table. I'll go and make a few calls on your behalf and no whipping down to Geelong behind your back. Get together and say, OK, let's be mature about this. We understand your grievances. Let us talk to you about where we sit. There's a massive contract sitting there. There's a long-term involved. And always at the end of that saying, let's not forget you've committed to this over. So, if we ever get to that stage where we're going to take into account your health, your happiness, form, importantly, we'll do all those things, but it may not happen if that's where they get to. And then there's a precedent involved that they don't want to be setting. So Clayton says, I'm not happy, so then therefore he gets traded. Cozzy Pickett then says, OK, well, I'm not happy. Don't trade Cozzy Pickett. He's got 2 years to go. He's about to rip the competition to threat. And thankfully, Christian looks like he's really settled. But if he comes back and says, hang on, you let those blokes go, where do I sit? So I think there's a really interesting month ahead or 2 months ahead. And I guess the next question is who does and have those conversations with Clayton and his camp?
Yes.
And is there enough goodwill from both parties to be able to sit down and do that in a mature way.
So it feels like there's so much footy still to be played out this season that the decision will largely be contained in the footy that's played.
I think so, and I don't give up on him, by the way.
Yeah.
I know everyone's talking him down and his ball use is not where it should be. He's averaging 28 touches a game, which is, that's not a bad starting point. So we'll have Simon Goodwin in here tomorrow. It'll be one of the questions that we talk to him. But I haven't given up on him to that point. So, let's see what happens in the next couple of months.